we're just going to dive straight into our topic today because we are going to be talking about what are the best decks in the game, as well as talking about the obvious problem that is currently plaguing the game. The fact that only 3 classes are barely able to maintain above a 50%, and I have some bad news for you. This was the stats from yesterday. If we look at the stats from today, it is just notably getting worse in almost every single metric. We are now getting to the point where Paladin, that's right, Drunk Paladin, the best deck in the format before the patch went live, is now almost sitting at a 50%, where only Hunter and Druid seem to be the only classes that are doing well in this expansion, with a few exclusions at a couple of different ranks. If you want my honest opinion, I think that Druid and Hunter are obviously very good. Paladin is still a very good class, but it's boring and a lot of people aren't playing it. Death Knight has some capabilities, but it's completely countered by Hunter. Rogue is there as like the Hunter counter, so that's why it's sitting at like the number 5 spot, because usually Rogue, if it wasn't obvious, Rogue would probably be sitting at like a 46-45%. But regardless, I'm not going to nitpick over the percents here. I just want to show you guys that right now, this meta is absolutely skewed, and it is all because of Imbue Hunter. I find it very, very hilarious and very shocking and very ironic to a degree that Imbue Druid is the better performing Imbue deck at all of the ranks, but the most popular and the most common deck that you are going to be seeing is going to be this Imbue Hunter. At Diamond through Legend, it does happen to maintain above a 50%. At the Legend ranks, it is still maintaining barely a 50%, and just barely when you get to top 1000, it is finally showing signs of weakness, but it's not because this deck is bad or it gets worse at top Legend. No, you are literally experiencing this number right now because more people at top 1000 understand the mindset. And this is the mindset that really makes me mad about the current meta, and very similar to Armor Demon Hunter meta. You literally cannot play ladder unless you have a deck that counters Imbue Hunter. It is literally the very first rule of this metagame right now, where if you want to play ladder, you absolutely need a deck that deals with this nonsense. Otherwise, you are going to have the worst climb, the most ineffective climb possible, because the moment that you queue into Hunter, it is literally safe for you to concede by turn 1. Like, decks like Starship DK, for example, sometimes even Control Warrior has issues with dealing with this deck, and some of these decks are literally crafted in order to destroy Hunter. You could add a Dirty Rat into your deck like I have in Warlock, and you could sometimes counter the Hunters then, but it really comes down to, do you draw the Dirty Rat before they get their combo before turn 6? And sometimes you play the Dirty Rat, you don't hit the right minions. So it's like, the counterplay to this deck is there, but it is not exciting at all to know that you have to essentially build a deck that destroys this Imbue Hunter while also defeating everything else at once. And honestly, I wish I had the answer to like, oh, this is the best deck against Imbue Hunter, which honestly, in my opinion, I think it might be Dark Gift Rogue or Ashamain Rogue or some form of Rogue that just hits face. But I have some sad news and some sad statistics that I do have to share with you, because even at top 1000 Legend, there seems to be a new version of Imbue Hunter that is starting to become popular, at least at top 1000, and I really thought about if I was going to share the deck list, but at this point, I might as well just show you guys the deck in order for you guys to see just how degenerate it is. But I would really encourage you not to play it, because it's just, Imbue Hunter is literally my least favorite archetype of all time. I believe now this is the most miserable meta that has ever existed, and I realize that I say this a lot, but these archetypes nowadays are just, they're not fun, they're just rage-inducing. It's like we went from Reno, we finally got rid of Reno, and now we have something that does not necessarily the same as Reno, but effectively the same by making your board completely irrelevant, so that way they can just kill you automatically. I would rather deal with Armored Demon Hunter meta versus Imbue Hunter meta for the following reason. At least with Armored Demon Hunter, you got to play your cards, and you had to play out the game, and maybe you could have your counter be somewhat good against them. I realize that this take is going to fall flat for a lot of people because they hated Armored Demon Hunter, but the point that I'm essentially trying to make is that I didn't mind when they at least had to play their cards, and they had to, you know, play the game past like turn 10 in order to enact their combo. I'm fine with, you know, in most cases, I'm fine with that, but Imbue Hunter is just literally everything that I hate about the game, and it's worse than Stormwind in my opinion. And in my opinion, the worst meta that has ever existed was Evolve Shaman with Desert Hare Evolve for almost a very similar reason, because Desert Hare Evolve, if you did that combo by turn 4, you were just dead. With Imbue Hunter, if you have by turn 6, turn 7, a bunch of Imbues active, and then you play Sing Along Buddy into Hero Power, into the Dragonkin that copies the 0 mana plush, there's nothing you can do about it. There's absolutely nothing that you can do about it. So I have no desire to stream standard, and it's really annoying and really sad, but several standard streamers have been playing Battlegrounds because they're like, well, I'm gonna play Hearthstone, but I'm not gonna play standard, and well, Wild doesn't exist to a lot of standard players. So it's just really annoying how like these decks that you're seeing right now are the same decks that we were playing a couple of days ago, and there's literally almost no room for experimentation with these new cards because number one, the new cards are not that meta impactful. Number two, the new cards are just simply weak, so even if you want to play a meme deck, you are effectively playing a deck that has absolutely no gas whatsoever, so you can't deal with the Imbue Hunters, you can't deal with the Imbue Druids, the Rogues are just going to roll you over, and then your other option is to go against turbo hardcore control. There's no middle ground in order for you to take advantage of. You have to destroy one of these decks that you are seeing right now, and that's the worst part about this meta, is that as soon as it was launched, as soon as it was released, we already knew what was good and what was going to be bad and what was going to be meta relevant. It's just a matter of figuring out just how good Imbue Hunter is and how good Druid really can be. The Maloran deck, probably bait. Fyrakk, maybe bait by itself. Maybe you just get rid of this card, and I don't know. I have some lists that I will show you guys that are going to be my recommendations if you want to try and enjoy the standard meta. But it's just like, dude, I really don't know how else to put it. It's just this meta is absolutely miserable. And I'm not sorting by win rate, I'm sorting by popularity in order to prove the point where it's like, look at this, you know, this chokehold on the meta, dude. Like, here are essentially all the decks that we've been playing. Where are the new archetypes? We have Imbue Hunter and Imbue Druid and Fyrakk Rogue as like the only really good new archetypes. Dark Gift Rogue is decent, but it's kind of overshadowed by a lot of other things. But it's just like scroll down and it's just like, where is all of the new stuff, man? Like there's nothing new, unfortunately, that's really making that big of an impact right now. So it's like looking at Diamond through Legend. Where are the new archetypes? We have Aviana Druid, Cinema Druid, which I would love to make a video about, but I just can't get clips with it. This deck has completely, you know, been a new deck, and it's got a 41%. Nebula Shaman, that used to be that, you know, that meta-relevant tyrant, yeah, that's below Aviana Druid now, not only in win rate, but in popularity. It's just there are so many decks that are playable right now, but all of these archetypes are a complete joke. You can't play them. There's nothing that they do well. There's nothing that they do good. They get completely countered by absolutely everything, and it's just really annoying how I see something like a Libram Paladin. I see something like a Rainbow Shaman. I see something like Among Us Demon Hunter, which honestly doesn't even have that bad of a win rate, especially considering that there was an aggro Demon Hunter that had a 50, where, yeah, this Pain Demon Hunter, 55%. That should be good, right? No, because of these decks existing, I literally, as a competitive Hearthstone player that is trying to get the most wins possible, I am literally noticing how these decks are unplayable. I don't want to touch them. I look at them and I know that they're bad immediately because they are not going to have anything within them in order to come back against these popular decks. You literally have the task of playing a meta that you don't enjoy or playing a deck that simply can never win, and I just don't understand the thought process that went into this, where this was going to be obvious. Everybody saw this coming, and the Hearthstone designers either said, screw it, we'll do it live and we'll see what happens, or they decided, yes, players would like this, and it's just, I really feel like almost everyone is speaking out against this deck being one of the most unfun player experiences that has ever happened, and we were just complaining about Zarimi Priest in the last meta. So it's just like, these combo decks, I am a combo player. I would love to play a combo deck, but I don't want to play a deck that practically plays itself, where the combo is not even interesting or interactive to a degree. So it's just like, I am really torn right now to where, again, I don't want to stream. I do not want to stream in this meta because I am actually having the worst time that I have had since Reno first came out and since Doom in the Tomb, because that was, you know, I've not been having a good time playing Hearthstone, and I am really tired of being the guy that doesn't like this because, I mean, I don't even want to draw attention to this, but I'm legitimately becoming toxic now. Like, I can't even deny it. I am legitimately getting to a point in this game where I am getting more frustrated playing it than I am deriving entertainment from it, and people are noticing, dude. Like, I can't help but be negative towards this because I don't want this to be in my Hearthstone, and the reason why I get so mad about it is because when the game suffers, I suffer. Like, I suffer monetarily because of it. I suffer content-wise because of it. I don't know what to do in this meta because it is either showcase the meta decks that are not fun and everyone has already heard and talked about, or I tell you about a meme deck that absolutely has no potential, and then you're gonna waste your dust on it, have a bad experience with it, and then suddenly it's like, oh man, how come I listen to this content creator tell me about this deck? Like, I'm at my wit's end, dude. I really am at my wit's end, because this is what's going on at top 1000 right now. These are the decks that you're going to be seeing, and there's nothing new. There's nothing interesting. It's the same meta, plus Imbue Druid actually being good, since it was kind of decent before the patch. Now it's really good because of the 1-drop and because of the location. Really good cards. But Imbue Hunter just absolutely ruined the show. King Plush absolutely ruined everything, and I'm so sorry that this is where I'm at right now, but I can't figure out how to get around this, especially considering that I have playoffs coming out this weekend, and I need to play well. So this is going to be something that I'm gonna have to announce, is that I will be doing a lot more fun content after playoffs is done, because I don't have to focus on a ladder finish, I don't have to focus on any of that. But dude, if I see a Hunter, like, I'm just going to immediately concede against them half the time. So here's going to be my top 5 deck breakdown, essentially, since I'm not making a top 5 video in this absolute dog meta. Like, I can't do it, dude. I mean, these are the decks. I can't find fun decks, and usually when I make a top 5 deck video, I have some pretty interesting archetypes. I literally have 10 decks for you right now. That's it. I've got 10 decks for you, and not all of them are going to be meta relevant. So let's just quickly get through this, because I'm really not happy about putting this list on the screen. I heavily debated not even putting this list up here, but I think it's actually important to show you guys why this list is really dumb and really annoying and very good, because unfortunately, this deck right here has a really good matchup spread. Here are the stats on the deck. I want everyone who is looking at Imbue Hunter and being like, oh man, Imbue Hunter can't be beaten. Why are you complaining, Clark HELLSCREAM? Look at this matchup spread. Look at it. Only weak against Rogue at Diamond through Legend. At top 1000 Legend, it's still only Rogue. That is the only class that can get this thing below a 50%. Now do you understand why I'm upset? It's not just about the deck that was popular on day one. It's about what this deck is going to evolve into and how people are going to start milking this thing for everything that it's worth. And honestly, the battle cries that are in this deck are super annoying. You have Glacial Shard in the deck because, you know, you just need to stall until turn 6, turn 7 in a lot of instances. You have punch cards, so that way if they go wide onto the board, you have a way of getting rid of their board, and now you're not taking as much damage. And there are even some people that are crazy enough to put in Mixologist in the deck, and honestly, I kind of understand it, because if you need an AoE and a clutch, or you need some armor, or you need to freeze a minion, why wouldn't you run this card? Because you're very likely to get those options out of the discovery. So it's just like, I really dislike how this deck became meta relevant, became popular, and is now looking like it actually is the best deck in the game. What can I tell you guys? What can I literally tell you? Remember when I literally predicted that if Imbue Hunter becomes good, the only beast that would see play is King Plush because it's that good? It's just, I see these things and I notice these things, and that's why I get very pissed off when I see this happen, because it's like, you have a train crash happen, you have a bus that's on the tracks, but the bus has been on there for 2 weeks. Like we all knew this was gonna happen, but they never moved the bus, and now the bus is destroyed by the train. So yeah, that Imbue Hunter very good right now. But Imbue Druid seems very good right now, but there are some people that are saying that Fyrakk is absolute bait in this deck because you don't want anything that's above 7 mana. I really don't know what card I would take out for this, because I like the idea of Fyrakk being like that last random YOLO out in case you need to go for like a board comeback, or if you need to go for like a YOLO lethal. I think I enjoy Fyrakk, and the best way to play him is usually when you're behind. So having one big mana card in the deck doesn't seem like a big detriment, but you're really gonna notice with a deck like Imbue Druid, the longer the game goes on, the more stats that you summon, the stats are just going to get the job done. Fyrakk is just more so in the deck for like a comeback tool, and maybe you can combo it with like a trail mix earlier on, but you can pretty much sub this card out for anything that you like if you do not want to run Fyrakk. But the general idea, I am perfectly fine with Imbue Druid being good because it's a board-based deck. You have to build up the win condition. There are ways of denying this deck, albeit a little bit difficult, but this playstyle is a lot more in tune with what I believe Hearthstone should be. Minion combat, having solid synergies, and just having a deck that just plays for the board. So I can't even get mad at Imbue Druid because of that. Next up is Fyrakk Rogue, which is probably the deck that I've been playing and having the most amount of fun with. If you enjoy Tempo Rogue, it pretty much is just the exact same deck, except we took out Ashamane and we put in Fyrakk the Blazing for almost the exact reason that I told you with the Druid deck. Sometimes you just need this card to bail you out of a bad circumstance, and because you can cheat this card out with Scoundrel, that's really the only reason why this card is seeing play. I do find it interesting that Ashamane is rotated out of this deck, but I think the reason why it's been rotated is because when you play Ashamane, sometimes you don't get something immediate out of it. The last time that I played Ashamane, I was against a Death Rattle Demon Hunter, and I ended up getting like 3 copies of Return Policy with no Death Rattles. So Ashamane has a lot of circumstances where the cards it can give you are pretty bad. I find it very sad because I love this card. It's my favorite Wild God, but unfortunately, Fyrakk Rogue is going to be the new direction if you were an Ashamane lover. Ashamane is just not good enough anymore because Fyrakk can also kill your opponent. So Fyrakk just seems to be the way to go if you want to play Rogue. And then there's the other side of Rogue, where you're playing the Dark Gift Weapon, another card that a lot of people thought would be very, very good, and it turns out it's just really good. It's not very, very good, but maybe becomes extremely good after the patch, because this card is essentially just 1 mana, deal 8. If you have it early on the field, you can also play your Dread Corsairs, and this deck just pretty much aims to flood the board as quickly as possible. It's still got the Harbinger combo. It's still got Scoundrel into Fyrakk turns. This deck is just all in on trying to go in with this consistency of destroying your opponent very, very early on. It's kind of crazy how this deck also has like Nightmare Fuel, so that way you can get cards from your opponent's deck, so sometimes you may not have like a really aggressive start. But generally speaking, compared to both of the Rogue decks that you're seeing right now, this one is definitely way more in tune with trying to kill your opponent quicker rather than later. Next up, we're going to get into the turbo control decks that are playable right now, because this deck was specifically crafted, specifically made in order to beat the King Plush. It doesn't even do that very consistently. Like, it has a very good game against Hunter, but the sad thing about the Hunter matchup is that if they are able to bide their time, if you saw my video, He's Right, where I showed a bunch of clips of Imbue Hunter happening, it is possible, if the Imbue Hunter is patient enough, that they can defeat you, even if you have the Bulwark of Azzinoth getting in the way. Even if you have Dirty Rats, sometimes Dirty Rats can miss or you don't draw them. And originally, this deck was a no-hands creation where he was putting in quality assurance, but I think now people are aware of how good all you can eat can be in this deck, because you draw cards like your Zavis, you draw your Hostile Invader, you draw your Ziliax, and you draw your Tortola. So that way you can actually throw out your big minions, have some things get in the way, but it's just like, I don't know, man. Like, this deck is cool and it should be good, but sadly, whenever I see this deck, I'm like, ooh, I should always beat Hunter, but it doesn't always beat Hunter. So if you want to play this deck because you like Control Warrior, I would highly recommend it. If you want to play this deck because it's the way of beating Imbue Hunter, I would also recommend it for that case. But also, this deck is just fun in general. Like, Control Warrior is in an interesting spot right now, and I do think it's in a very fun state, but in terms of power level, in terms of meta relevance because of Hunter existing, it's really sad that Warrior's not the end-all be-all for the Hunter class. Next up is Wheel Warlock, and originally I did see a deckless Warlock that was not running Wheel of Death whatsoever, and it was just running Kill Jaden. The main reason being that if you want to beat a lot of decks right now, all you really need to do is play Ancient of Yore and gain armor. Now, the reason why this deck is a lot more consistent is because of a miniset card. I will finally say there's some miniset cards that are making an impact, and originally when I saw Conflagrate, I thought this card was just bad. I thought it was bad because it's like, why would I want to deal 5 damage to a minion of mine just to draw a card when I can play Mortal Coil and potentially just use that for the same reason? Because dealing 5 to an enemy minion and having my opponent draw a card, I don't know how much I like that. However, there is one synergy in particular that is very good with this card, and that is playing Ancient of Yore, and then playing Curse Campaign on it, and then immediately killing it with Conflagrate, so that way you don't have to play Eternal Layover. You also only get 2 minions out of it instead of 3 like you would if you were to play Eternal Layover, so it helps you not mill your cards as frequently, but it's also just like the perfect way in order to enable Yore on turn 4 if you have the coin, because now when it wakes up, you have Curse Campaign and Conflagrate to immediately kill it, and you're going to keep getting that value. So cards cards like Youthful Brewmaster are now in the deck as well in order to potentially bounce your Ancient of Yore if you're not playing your Ceaseless or if you're not going for like Dirty Rats, for example. Because originally, this deck was running double Dirty Rat, but I have teched it in order to try and like potentially bring this to potentially bring this to playoffs. I think that Wheel Warlock has some potential in the tournament, but I really don't want to have to tech this deck against Hunter. I'm probably just going to ban it, but you could go ahead and sub out like Wheel of Death. You could sub out the Mortal Coil for double Dirty Rat, and if you want to get rid of Wheel of Death so that way you just go all in on armor gain, then you could also put in a Bob in the deck if you really want those particular style of cards. In fact, I still feel like a Bob might be good enough in this deck. I might need to put it in here still, but this is something that I have been testing, and I like Wheel Warlock. I like what this deck does, and I realize that a lot of people think that armor gain is bullshit right now, but Hearthstone is bullshit, and this is the only thing I can even begin to enjoy right now, not because it's a bullshit archetype, but because decisions matter, how you play it matters, and its skill expression is very high. That's why I can forgive a deck like Wheel Warlock, but I can't forgive a deck like Imbue Hunter, because with Wheel Warlock, there are multiple routes to success. With Imbue Hunter, it's literally the same nonsense every time. Next up, we have Bloody Starship DK, which honestly, I don't really think is that good. I'm just kind of showing off this deck because there's a lot of like heavy control decks that are trying their best in order to beat Imbue Plush Hunter, but unfortunately, it doesn't matter how much health that you give yourself with this deck. The Hunter is just going to be able to keep pushing button, so you need to actually kill them with your Starship pieces. It is somewhat possible because the higher you make your health, the more they have to press the button and the longer the game goes on. But if you don't have your tempo, if you don't have your minions that are actively threatening the Hunter, then this matchup is probably not as favored as a lot of people think it is. Again, the only deck that is very, very consistent at beating Hunter right now is a deck that is all in, beating it with like cards like Ghost or something like that, which honestly, I don't even think is the best way of countering it. But the best way of beating Hunter really is just playing Rogue and just smacking him in the face as quickly as possible. Maybe Menagerie decks are better against Hunter, but with the freeze cards in the deck, I'm not really sure. But the point is, even a deck like this, the Turbo Greedy Control DK, still struggles against Imbue Hunter. Now I'm going to talk about some of the fun decks that I tried really hard to see if they were going to be meta relevant or if they were just still going to be memes, but it's actually sad how close this deck feels to becoming a meta relevant good tempo DK deck. Because Stuffy, remember that Stuffy DK? It actually got some major support in this expansion because of Frostburn Matriarch. You now have a 5 mana, essentially 12/12 minion if you can get the Dark Gift value. So running cards like Creature of Madness makes so much sense in this deck again because it was original. It was the original card, and the Stuffy DK was running a bunch of Dark Gift stuff. So now this card just makes a lot of sense at the moment. So we have the Akanai combo with Stuffy that's possible. We have we have Rite of Atrocity as well as Creature of Madness as our Dark Gift enablers for the Frostburn Matriarch. And someone might need to correct me on this. I don't know how this works. I wanted to test this, but I quickly gave up on this deck before finding it out. But I wonder, if you Zavis into a Frostburn Matriarch, does that get value? And the reason why is because it says if you're holding a minion with a Dark Gift, not if you're holding another minion with a Dark Gift. So I think that this card could technically trigger itself if you were to give it a Dark Gift with the Zavis. But feel free to correct me in the comments. I have not tested this. I have not seen this in action, so this is just speculation. But notice how my demeanor and my overall mood has been raised because of this deck. It's amazing what a fun Hearthstone deck can do for you. And one other thing I should mention, Saladrassil does have potential in this deck, but if you want to fit it into the deck, I feel like you have to cut Zephyrs from the deck. But Zephyrs is really good for, like, you know, tempo, having burn options, so I don't know. Pretty much just use this card if you want to, sub it for Zephyrs if you like it. But overall, this deck is fun, this deck is interesting, and this is the kind of playstyle that I want to be good. Stuffies. Because you want to know how you can kill the Stuffy? You can just play an AoE against it. You can play like an Immolation Aura, and it completely destroys the deck and knocks it off its high horse. It has a powerful play, but it has counterplay. Imbue Plush Hunter, take notes. You need a weakness, and we will give you a weakness in this next patch if it means destroying the deck or if it means buffing up everything else to being just as busted as Imbue Hunter. Next up, we have the most recent meta development on the ladder right now, and I don't really know how good this deck is, but it is at least very interesting when you really analyze what is going on here. Fyrakk Rogue has made a comeback, but it seems to be a high roll deck like it was supposed to be back in the day, where, you know, getting 8/8s was very much an anomaly. Turns out this deck can high roll the 8/8 turn as early as turn 4, but the way that this deck works is actually extremely interesting, and hopefully if I get some more clips with this deck, I will be able to post a video about it. But it is all in on just drawing cards as quickly as possible. You have cards like Twisted Web Weaver that work extremely well with Ever Burning Phoenix. So the overall game plan of this deck is to play 1 or 2 spiders, play a bunch of cards, you get to play your Phoenix for 0 mana, and here's the real kicker. You can backstab it. You can eat the imp. You can destroy the minion or shadow step it with the Phoenix, so that way you can keep playing it over and over and over again. But the best thing that you want to do with this deck is to have double Web Weaver, play Phoenix, draw 2 cards, shadow step it, draw 2 cards, backstab it, draw 2 cards, and then suddenly you're like, wait a minute, I have too many cards because now I can't play prep, eat the imp. It's actually impressive how quickly this deck can draw through it, to where some people are actually starting to put Academic Espionage in the deck as like the last game, the last win condition in case you draw out your entire deck and they deal with the board. Now you've decked out by like turn 5, turn 6 on average. You very easily can deck out by turn 4, turn 5 with this deck. And now you can play Academic Espionage as like a fun way of trying to end the game and find like that last win condition. So like this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is exactly what I'm talking about with this kind of deck and this kind of meta, where it's like, yes, finally, something new came about. Something new is playable, but sadly, this is one of the only new archetypes that we're really seeing thanks to the mini set. So it's just, this is the position that I'm at. This deck is fun, this deck is great, this deck's not powerful, it has weaknesses, but this is really one of the only newer archetypes that has really gotten to flourish because of the new mini set cards. So hopefully this deck does maintain itself, and maybe after an Imbue Hunter nerf, this does become like the next scam deck. But this is really what this deck is. It's a scam deck. I was not able to consistently get the giant turn by turn 4, turn 5, and I had like a 40, almost like a 35% win rate with this deck, and currently everyone and their mother, if they're a standard streamer, is playing it with a sub win rate. So this deck really is fun, it is very interesting, but it is kind of sad that once again, the mini set is trying to do its best, but it's just not exactly there. Next up, we have a deck that I tried to make on my stream a couple of days ago because someone gave me the idea of playing Amardrasil alongside Scrapbooking Student. And so when I was thinking about, can Owl Warlock be a thing, there's also the high roll of Zavis if you were to discover the Alonius, and then you have the copy card when this minion, when you play this minion, summon a 2/2 copy of it, that just automatically wins the game. Now granted, that Zavis, it's a high roll. It'd be a very giga high roll if you ever happen, and I would love to play this deck and hopefully get it once. But the idea of this deck being that Amardrasil is a very good card in Druid, and you could potentially make an Owl Druid combo good, but unfortunately, it's slower than Imbue Hunter, it's slower than all of the other tempo-based decks that are available right now. This deck I've popped off once out of 5 games and then immediately gave up on it, but there might be something here, and if you're a combo Druid player, then I want to give you this challenge and see what you can do with this, because this deck is actually popping up a little bit on HSReplay, but its stats are tier 4 and barely worth looking into if you're someone that wants a meta-relevant deck. So I made this version of the deck. It's got the Rising Waves in order to try and deal with the rogues. It's got Seabreeze Chalice for actual removal, and the whole point of the deck is just to draw through, play Ancient of Yore, hopefully hit Zavis into Owl, and then do some kind of ridiculous combo with a bunch of spell damage. Yeah. Owl Druid looks interesting. This deck looks solid, but if you play it, you'll notice some of the weaknesses that this deck has of just being another combo deck without enough interaction. Next up, we have Cinema Druid, which is another deck that I really want to try and spend more time on playing because this deck is extremely fun when it gets to pop off, and I do want to make a deck guide talking about how interesting this archetype actually is, because the whole point of this deck is to play Sky Mother Aviana and tutor it with cards like Ungoro Brochure as well as Reforestation to draw a minion from your deck. You play the Aviana, and now the best part about it is that your minion tutors are now going to tutor the 1-mana legendaries that you shuffle into your deck, and you just get to have a very high cinema moment. This is a very awesome deck that when it pops off is very satisfying, and this is the type of scam decks that I would like to see Hearthstone try to pursue more often, where the legendary itself is not doing the scamming, the battle cry and the things that you get from the legendary are scamming the game. So there's another, step. Like, imagine if this card just instantly killed you from 30. Wouldn't be interesting now, would it? So yeah, Cinema Druid, very high value, very high fun. I would say if you're looking for something interesting in this meta, this would be the way to go. And the last deck that I'm talking about, in order to just kind of give an idea of how hard I really tried to find some new cards in the mini set, is Cliff Dive Demon Hunter. Yet another, you know, not really fun to fight scam combo OTK deck that is all about playing Cliff Dive into Briarspawn Drakes and Illidari Inquisitors. The rest of the deck is just literally spells in order to keep you alive, as well as the new mini set card, Sigil of Cinder, which at the start of your turn deals 6 damage randomly split among all enemies. I feel like this is going to be a great card going into the next expansion, when they will probably for sure give us a bunch of Fel spells and giving us like a new Fel Demon Hunter archetype. I would be interested in playing something like that, depending on what cards they print to support it. But overall, this is just another mindless, go all in, do nothing but just focus on the combo style of deck that even runs like a Fey Trickster, because it really is all in on winning with Cliff Dive. So I tried, guys. I really did try. I'm not even gonna make a top 5 video, because this is pretty much going to constitute as my top 5 video. But yeah, dude, the King Plush situation, it's absolutely insane. I am not a fan of this meta. This has been my least favorite meta in probably over 10 years since Doom in the Tomb has come out. Reno Jackson was super freaking annoying and was something that you had to deal with in every single class. But what's worse than dealing with the same legendary in every single class? One class that rules above them all, that literally almost has no ways of being stopped, to where you have to actually run a deck that maybe has game against it, because it doesn't matter what you play on the ladder. You are wrong if you are not countering or trying to beat Imbue Hunter. It's the sad truth over the meta right now, and I'm not happy that this is the news that I'm reporting. I would much rather show you guys some meme decks. I would much rather show you guys some interesting gameplay or some fun tactics in Hearthstone, but there's just not a lot to work with right now, and this is why I've been such in a bad mood, and why I can't seem to get myself out of this rut of, I want to make fun content, but how can we make fun content when the game itself is just truly not fun at the moment? So if you made it all the way to the end of this video, thank you very much for dealing with all of my rage and with all of my toxicity, as some people would call it, because I am really trying in order to get myself into a position to where I am enjoying Hearthstone. I've been in this position where, like, for the past year, I've really been struggling to enjoy the game, and now we're in yet another waiting period where the patch is hopefully going to save the game. And if this is just like the beginning of Emerald Dream, we have some good news coming up ahead. But if this patch doesn't hit, I feel like Emerald Dream is going to be a complete disappointment for a lot of people from this point forward. So that's pretty much all that I have to say. Thank you for dealing with my rants. Thank you for dealing with my toxic behavior recently. I'm not proud of me being this way at the moment, but I'm not having fun, and I can't fake a smile and just, you know, take the lick and keep on ticking when Imbue Hunter is just literally the best deck in the game. Hearthstone, please fix this deck. Please fix the meta. I want to be able to have fun with the game again. So again, thank you guys for making it to the end of this video, and we'll see you hopefully for the next one.